Thanks very much for joining us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, the UN says it's horrified by footage screened by the Congolese government, reportedly showing rebels executing 2 investigators in Kasai province last month. Also, in Cameroon, a military court sentences RFI radio journalist Ahmad Abba to 10 years in prison on charges of non-denunciation of terrorism. His lawyers are planning on appealing. And 1 year ago in Ivory Coast, Congolese singer Papa Wemba gave what would be his last ever performance. Tributes to the artist's singing and style continue to this day. But first, DR Congo's claim that a video it's shown to reporters in Kinshasa is proof that its forces were not behind the murder of 2 UN investigators. The Congolese government screened the footage on Monday, saying that it showed members of the militia from the Kasai province killing Michael Sharp, US citizen, and Swedish national Zaida Catalan. They went missing in March after having been sent to Kasai to look into reports of abuses committed by both soldiers and rebels during a bloody local insurgency. Our Thomas Nicolon saw the footage.
No cameras were allowed at the Ministry of Communications on Monday. The authorities showed 2 videos to the press. In the first one, a man and a woman who seemed to be Michael Sharp and Zaida Catalan, the 2 UN experts who got killed in DR Congo last month, are being shot dead right before a teenager cuts off the woman's head. In the second video, 39 police officers are being killed. According to the authorities, these videos are the proof that the Cameroon and Sapu militia is responsible for the UN expert's death and the police officer's death. The government spokesman Lambert Mende declared that the Cameroon and Sapu militia is a terrorist group that needs to be eradicated. More than 100 people have died in clashes between Cameroon and Sapu militias and the authorities in the Kasai Central Province since September 2016.
Thomas Nicolon there for us. Well, in Cameroon, a military court sentenced a journalist from France 24's sister radio station, RFI, to 10 years in prison on charges of non-denunciation of terrorism and laundering of the proceeds of terrorist acts. Ahmad Abba works for RFI's Hausa service and was jailed in July 2015 for his reporting on regional extremist group Boko Haram. His lawyers say that no proof of the charges was ever supplied and that they will be appealing the conviction. Rights groups have slammed a reportedly increasingly repressive climate for press freedoms in Cameroon, and RFI has vowed to do all it can to get the charges against Abba dropped.
I'm disappointed, but I remain hopeful. We are appealing. No evidence against Ahmad Abba was brought to this court. So no evidence will be brought to the Court of Appeal. That's why I remain hopeful. But we do regret this new delay, which means Ahmad Abba will spend yet more time in prison.
Qui fera qu'Ahmed Abba passera encore du temps en prison.
Well, Nigeria's Emir of Kano has been summoned by the anti-corruption agency in northern Kano state over his office's expenditure. Lamido Sunusi was appointed to the powerful Muslim role in 2014, after having previously been sacked as the country's central bank chief. Now, he'd raised the alarm over the discovery that billions of dollars of state oil funds had gone missing before he was removed from his role. He's been an outspoken critic of graft in local and national government. Ghana, Kenya and Malawi will get the world's first vaccine against malaria. A day ahead of World Malaria Day on Tuesday, the World Health Organization said that the jab could save tens of thousands of lives. The plan is for around 360,000 children to be vaccinated between 2018 and 2020. In Africa alone, more than 400,000 people are killed by the disease every year.
An effective malaria vaccine has been 30 years in the making, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very excited to tell you that right now, malaria vaccines are looking very promising, with over 20 candidate vaccines in various stages of development. And of these, the vaccine known as RTSS is the most advanced and has been shown to provide partial protection against the malaria parasite Plasmodium falciparum in young children.
Now, every day, billions of cups of coffee are drunk around the world. It's also an industry that fuels the livelihoods of millions of people in developing countries. Climate change could threaten the future of the wild bean, though, and farmers in Kenya are already feeling the effects of extreme weather on their crops.
In Kenya, coffee farmers have been hard hit by the current drought.
This is not normal. We have had high temperatures and no rain. It was bad in 1984, but definitely not this bad.
The plant is highly sensitive to fluctuations in temperature, with an optimal annual temperature range of 18 to 24 degrees.
Last year, 2016, from this kind of coffee, a farmer can produce 10 kgs per tree. But this year, farmers were producing on an average of 1 to 2 kgs per tree.
Coffee farmers and locals dig deep to find water, a resource they have to share with angry herders.
If anybody dares to come here and say our cows are not allowed to drink here, then we'll use the weapons lying right here.
Coffee farmers are anxious. Experts say climate change could, by 2050, halve the area suitable for coffee production. Today, 120 million people in developing countries depend on the coffee trade for a living.
Well, sticking with the effects that climate change is having on the continent, we head to Gambia. Now, Kunta Kinte Island was where tens of thousands of Africans began their terrifying journey into slavery centuries ago. Over 500 years of history are now under threat from erosion and neglect.
It's one of the Gambia's most important historical sites, the island of Kunta Kinte, named after the rebel slave made famous in the novel and US television series Roots.
I think it's very important because we need to know about our history. That is the only way we can truly understand, fully realize our potential.
Kinte is said to have been taken captive in 1767 and held prisoner in this cell. The island fort housed dozens of West Africans like him who were chained and branded before being shipped to the New World. But the UNESCO World Heritage Site, deep in the mouth of the River Gambia, is being eroded away.
Before, the island was very big, 6 times bigger than this. Today, 6 times smaller, but because of the erosion.
Historians say the island was neglected under former President Yahya Jammeh, who instead pushed tours into visiting his own home village. Jammeh was defeated in December polls, ousted from power after 22 years.
We were under a lot of pressure, to conform, to how he interpreted, how he wanted to interpret, Gambian history. And our resistance to that, led, the island to suffer, from lack of attention and from lack of funding, particularly, for conservation exercise.
There is a small slavery museum across the water near where Kinte is said to have lived, but local historians believe their national hero deserves more, with hopes of a resource centre, shows and educational tours. That would build on Kinte's memory, rather than letting the history get washed away.
Now, a year ago, in Ivory Coast, Congolese singer Papa Wemba gave what would become his last ever performance. The star, known as the King of the Rumba, died on stage during the FEMA festival in Abidjan. Tributes to the artist feature heavily in this year's edition of the event, and fans are still celebrating both his music and his distinctive style. Our correspondents sent us this report from Abidjan.
Some fans love to make a statement. Cardinal Ekumani, as he's known, has just returned from a visit to Papa Wemba's grave in the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ekumani is a member of the Sapper movement and a fashion designer. He made clothes for Wemba, the king of Congolese rumba.
So here's me with Papa. It was in 2013.
He says Papa Wemba was more than just someone to dress. He was an icon.
He was our guide. Papa was like the Pope here. An imam, a sheikh. When Papa said in his songs, what was he like? Good hair, well-shaven, well-perfumed. Good hair, well-shaven, well-perfumed. That's the way to be. That's the philosophy behind the sapeurs.
Show-offs, dandies, lovers of style and of beautiful things, the sapeurs were once viewed as a criminal gang. But Papa Wemba changed that image.
I believe Papa Wemba legitimized the sapeur. People had a complex. They weren't happy in their skin. Papa Wemba succeeded in breaking through that barrier and bringing the sap philosophy to everyone, to make it acceptable in everyday life. And today, you can see lots of young people who live by the sapeur philosophy.
It's been a year since Papa Wemba's death, and Ivorian sappers have gathered to honour their mentor in a week of parades and memorials. For them, the king of the sap lives on.
I need to get me some of those socks. Well, that is, though, we're going to have to leave it for Eye on Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again. Take care.